Hi, everyone, and happy Sunday morning. I'm Leo Rithika Vijay, and I will be your host for today, this episode of the Leadership Series. So today's topic of discussion will be project management. So our guest speaker today is Marcus Lyon. So a little bit of the speaker today. He is he is elected to serve as the international director of the Lions Club International Association of the 101st International Convention. Director Leon has also worked in corporate legal administration and financial services for 36 years. He is currently the board administration manager, and he has also been a member of the Brookfield Lions Club since 1996 and has held a number of offices within the association, including district governor, GLT district coordinator, cabinet secretary, multiple district council chairperson, and multiple district GLT coordinator. In recognition for his services, he has received numerous awards, including an International President Awards and International President's Leadership Awards. He has also been recognized as Connecticut Knight of Blind and a Connecticut Ambassador of Sight, in addition to receiving 4 International President Certificates of Appreciation. He is a recipient of numbers of project and serves related certificates. Director Lyon is a progressive Melvin Jones Fellow, as well as his wife, Caroline Ferris Lyon.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Ritika. Thanks very much. Looking forward to having a good chat with everyone today. We're going to talk about project management. First, I just, again, want to thank Ritika for the introduction. I'm from Brookfield, Connecticut, currently serving my final year on the International Board of Directors. I'm one of that small group that, because of the lack of an international convention last year, had an opportunity to serve on the board for a third year, which is unique and very, very special during this time of COVID for everyone. I'm also the chairperson of the Constitution and Bylaws Committee of the Board of Directors, which allows me to participate in a lot of very, very important issues for our association. So again, thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this session today. So we're going to talk a little bit about project management, and that topic could go on for days. Believe me, there are so many different theories and methodologies involved with managing projects. And as Lions and as Leos, we get involved in many, many projects of all different shapes and sizes. So I think it's important to look at things from a new perspective every once in a while, right? It's important that we look at our clubs and our activities that we continue to do, but we also need to focus on new ways of doing things. And again, in this challenging environment that we've had over the last year or so, it's even more important to do that because we need to keep generating interest in our projects. So again, project management has been a core issue for Lions and Leos for many, many years. In fact, and as I was doing some research for today's presentation, I went back into lionsclubs.org and the Resource Center and pulled up an old project management webinar that's available for everyone out there. And it goes back to 2014. Not that many things have changed since 2014, but there are new ways to look at things. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to kind of talk side by side and go through the documentation that's in the webinar materials on our LCI website, and then talk about a new way of looking at project management, which is called Agile. And Agile is something that's used extensively in the corporate world. And it primarily started back in the 1990s with software development companies. And they started to look at ways to manage their projects in a very new and important way because it looked at things very different. It wasn't just a very straightforward methodology that focused on strategic planning and organization and assigning a lead to manage the project. It's based on teams. And I think that that's an important consideration for the way that our clubs are functioning today. We have to consider ourselves as teams in the work that we do. So again, many different strategies out there today on project management. And one of the ways that I think it's important, and the thing that my company uses consistently, is called Agile project management. So, and again, what Agile does is it allows teams to work quickly and collaboratively and within very restrictive timeframes. It actually pushes it. It forces you to work quickly, but it forces you to work differently within your groups. And it puts a lot of emphasis on individual talents. So as we go through the presentation today, you'll see where the importance of certain activities falls when you're putting your project team together. So again, it's important to know that Agile was created in a way so that people can react more quickly to changing activities in their projects. And we all know that projects change over time. And whether that be because it's a brand new project for your club, a new initiative that you wanted to take on, or it's an old project that has a lot of history to it, but it's just not working right, and it's time to look at it from a new perspective. That's where Agile comes in, and that's where other new methodologies for project management also come in. So we want to deal with that as far as functional change and fundamental change in the way we lead our projects. So if you go through the Lions Club's international materials, the first thing they're going to focus on is the designation of a project leader. And that is not part of the Agile thinking. Not that you don't need someone to kind of take charge, but it's looked at differently. So a team leader is just as important as the project leader in the other methodology, the other way of thinking. But having a specific project manager that runs everything is not part of Agile. So we need to remember that, because we need to focus on the fact that we're working as a team. So I'm going to give you a definition of Agile now, and this is a little more technical, but this is important for you to think about today. So Agile project management is a collaborative, repeatable project management approach that incorporates continuous testing and responsiveness to change. And there are 4 key elements to that, and we're going to talk about those in a minute. But again, I wanted to focus on project managers for now, because those of us that have worked on projects in our clubs before know that sometimes the trouble could actually lie with the manager of the project. This could be someone who's very set in their ways or very dominant in their positions. And we want to make sure that putting together an Agile team to deal with a project, that everything is equal across the board, that we don't have one individual, one Lyon, one Leo, running the show and basically taking command of that project for the club. So that's important to remember. We don't want to get stuck in that old way of thinking. It's not to say that everybody on the team needs to be effective communicators. They need to be very flexible when plans change, and they need to be able to follow through on their action items. They need to be very motivational. It's important that all the members of your team be motivators, because you're trying to encourage each other to get things done on an expedited basis sometimes, so that your project can be rolled out. So there are 4 core values to Agile, and I'm going to summarize them for you now, because if you look at the old methodology of project management, it's basically made up of 5 parts. And that is to select the project you want to work on, to define the project, to plan the project, to execute on the project, and of course, at the end, to evaluate the project. So that's very standard in project management, and elements of each of those areas are consistent with an Agile methodology as well. But the 4 core values of Agile deal with these issues. So it's all about the individuals and their interaction, more than the process and the tools that they have. So it focuses on the individual contributions to getting that project done. Using technology wherever possible is very important. And that could be simply using your Microsoft Office, using Excel, using PowerPoint, using the things that you know how to use to best define and best collate all the information that you need to develop your project. It needs to be collaborative. We talked about that before. You have to look at yourselves sometimes as the customer, and what are you satisfied with? What brings you satisfaction that you're doing a great job to pull this aspect of the team together? And it's all through collaboration. Very, very important thing to remember. And the 4th area deals with responsiveness. And that is really dealing with change. In this past year, as we all know, we've all had to be very flexible and adaptable. So we need to also respond to change in a big way and in an expedited way. We need to keep moving things forward, especially if we have people relying on us on building a project and coming to a logical end. So, all right. So I'm going to give you an example of an activity that my club is working on. My club is made up of about 70 members right now, and we put on road races. That's a big deal. So there's a road race series that goes on in my town in Connecticut, and one of the races is coming up in about a month. And because of COVID, we weren't allowed to have the race last June, which everybody understood. So this year we had to make some decisions. We put a small team together. There's 4 of us on our team, and we each have a specific area to focus on. And one of them deals with the rules and regulations of dealing with COVID and running a road race. One deals with marketing and how we can sell our race to get more runners to participate. One has to do with finance, because we have to figure out how to raise money for our charities. This particular race is a fundraiser for diabetes awareness and JDRF. So that's important to raise money for them. And the 4th just has to do with club relations and communications, the internal talking that has to go on to make this project work and to build up the volunteers. So in that example, we've had to pivot. We've had to work really hard to make sure that we're responsive to all the changes that are going on with our particular project. So we decided early on that we were going to run a virtual race, and that entails all different kinds of activities, as you can imagine. Having a registration completely online, you can't have anybody show up at the site to run it. They have to run the course on their own, and all these other rules and things that you have to communicate properly with the runners. But we had a change happen just last week. The location that gives us permission to run through their community, it's a private community, gave us permission. We didn't expect them to. We had already pivoted to running a different race in a different part of our town. Well, now we had to pivot back. We had to be very flexible. We had to be very responsive to that change and work together as a team to make sure that we could go back to where we had originally hoped to be and run a great event. So that's just a simple example of a project where things have, it's an event that's gone on for many, many years. It's something that we were prepared to shift and do differently with our small team. And we had to shift and pivot a whole different direction to make sure that we can make this thing happen and be successful as a fundraiser. So I think that incorporates the 4 core values of Agile project management in a very simple way. I hope that's understandable for everyone who's listening in today. So again, one of the key parts of any project is to define it. And that has several parts, and these are very, very standard in project management terminology. So you have to define the purpose, the goals, the deliverables. You have to have a completion or an end date, and then you have to give it a name. You have to define what that project is. So in our case, it's the Strides to Cure Diabetes, and we have, our purpose is to raise money and awareness about diabetes. Our goal is to raise money for that, and our deliverables are to put on a great race. We want to make sure that all of our runners are safe and complete the course in a timely and healthy way. So, and then we want to reward them at the end with finishers medals as well. So again, that's an example of a project that is very, very big in scope and that has to change, but focused on basic project management skills. When you're planning a project, you still have to do a lot of identification. So you still have to look at the risks that are involved with it. In the case of an outdoor event like a road race or some other activity, you have to always factor in the weather. If you're doing an event where it could snow or rain constantly, you have to be prepared to pivot, to do something different. So in the road racing community, for example, in that system, we have to make sure that we have alternatives and other things available for our runners so that they're as comfortable as they can be while they're continuing to participate in the activity. So lots of activities involved with planning for projects in that way. I think the most important thing, though, is to know how to make adjustments in your project plans, whether it be in the communication side or the marketing side, or in the actual physical activity of doing the event. You need to be able to be adaptable to change and adjust based on what happens. And that is the whole essence of the Agile way of thinking about project management. So there are really just, there are 12 principles to Agile. And I think it's important for me to give you a summary of those. And again, there is so much information out there on Agile and other project management programs that are available to you and that I would encourage you to read up on as a way to make your projects run more efficiently and more effectively in your clubs. So those 12 items, and I'm going to, again, summarize them very quickly. So the number one project is really about customer satisfaction. So that's you. That's your team. You need to be satisfied that everyone who's involved in this effort is actually having a good time and understands that there's a benefit to putting on this project in your community. And it could be a large project, it could be a very small project, but regardless, you have to keep your customers satisfied. And initially, again, that is your team. That's your Leos or your Lions, whoever you're working with partnering with anybody in your community on that project. You need to keep everybody happy, and Agile helps you do that. You need to welcome changing developments. And we talked about this in several moments before about understanding that change happens. And sometimes it's not always the best, but you need to be looking forward to the end result always, and take it to that new level with the team that you've built together. Very, very important to welcome those changes in the process. With Agile, you need to also deliver frequently. You have to have specific targets and timelines built into your project. And it's important to keep everybody on those timelines, because without that, you're gonna run off your time frame. You're gonna not achieve the goals that you've tried to achieve with rolling out your project. So you need to make sure that your deliverables are there and that you're delivering on them frequently. And probably the most important part, again, is working together daily throughout the process. In the case of our road race, we now have just over a month to put this thing together. And fortunately, we have some documentation and things from prior years that we can recreate for this year's event. But we had to be prepared for a totally new race and a totally new course, totally new everything. And we were ready to do that until we received word that we were able to conduct the race at our normal venue. So again, being able to communicate and work together almost on a daily basis is really important to getting that timing down and making sure that you achieve your goals in a timely manner. So you also need to build your projects around very motivated people. And I know that Leos are very motivated people. They need to make sure that their projects are moving forward. They have great ideas about new projects that they can do for their communities. So we need to make sure that you have the right motivated people to support your projects. Very, very important. You need to give them the environment to support them, and you need to trust them to get the job done. That's really critical. Because when you're building a team, sometimes personalities can get in the way. But if you have a common goal and you have specific purposes assigned to specific people, you can all work independently and then pull it all together to have a great success with your project. So Agile also it's the most efficient and effective method of conveying information is face-to-face conversation. And I know that that's been difficult during COVID, but we've come up with great ways like this to talk to each other and to make sure that we're sharing the information on a very, very up-to-date, timely basis. That's really critical because you need to make sure that the communication is constantly open. And to be able to see each other eye to eye is just a huge benefit in any instance with getting your point across. You need to have working tools with whatever is appropriate for your project, and that's going to be able to allow you to measure your success. So you're going to create spreadsheets, you're going to create templates, depending on what the project is. You have financial statements to track the monies that are coming in and the expenses that are going out. Really simple things, but very, very important to manage the process and also to keep you time bound on what needs to be done along which step of the project. So Agile processes promote sustainable development. Agile really looks at a project in a way that it's going to be repeatable not for the distant future. It needs to go on and follow a specific track of activities. And it needs to be sustainable, but it also needs to be flexible to react to the changes that inevitably come. And it needs to maintain a constant pace. That rhythm that you use when you put together your project, or the timing of your meetings, whether they're virtual or in person, all those things are critically important to maintaining that pace and keeping everybody on the same level throughout the process. You need to pay continuous attention to the details of your project. Little things can come up in your discussions when you're meeting and going through what each person is responsible for. You need to not be afraid to ask the questions of your teammate about what happens when, what happens if, And you need to really talk those through, because the most prepared team is the most successful team. You need to be able to challenge each other in the nicest way possible to make sure that you're addressing all those unknowns, all those uncertainties that could come up during the development of your project. And while that sounds like it involves a lot of detail, you need to try to do this in as simple a manner as possible, because there's a lot of work to be done in these projects, and most of the people outside of your immediate team won't quite understand just what you need to do to make this project successful. So you need to keep it as simple as possible and be able to explain it in simple terms that everybody can understand, even though you know that your team is getting into the weeds a little bit more and learning more about what's going on. So the best results emerge from a self-organizing team. Again, you need to look for the best people to put on your team for a specific project. And that's going to vary project by project, right? If there's a project that you need experience in certain areas, you're going to look for people that are going to be able to push that area and play to their strengths. That's really, really important in an agile project management format. And of course, at regular intervals, a team needs to reflect. They need to get together and really diagnose what's going on. They need to look at all the pluses and minuses of what's working and what's not working for them up to that stage in developing their project plan. So very, very important that they stay in tune with each other and that they act accordingly to what they hear. So the important message there is just to get aligned, to stay aligned, and to continue to work together. That's the most important message when you're dealing with agile technology, because again, you're dealing with specialties. You're dealing with people that have really great skills, and they need to be able to use them. They need to use them freely to make your project successful. So again, some benefits about agile is adaptability, reducing risk, because you're going to be looking at everything together. You're going to have great customer satisfaction because you're communicating so well with each other every step of the way, consistently. Not a week later, I'm going to get in touch with you. Not a month later, and I'm going to get in touch with you. But in the next couple of days at the most, I'm going to circle back with you, and we're going to talk about where things are and what's happening. This is going to make your teams happier. We talk about how our Leo clubs and our Lions clubs are autonomous, and this is another way to support that thinking. Very, very important to make sure that your team is happy and working and becoming very strong through this process of managing their project. So again, there are barriers to running a project like this. And those barriers are that the culture of your club is at odds with the way you're doing things, that the organization, your Leo's organization, is resistant to the change that you're trying to incorporate, or that there's inadequate support from your club leaders. Those are the things you have to push past. And running a project using Agile or any of the other project management methodologies will allow you to push back those barriers and have a great project. All right, that's enough talking for now. We have covered a lot of information, and again, there's a lot more out there, but I thank you for your time and open it up for any questions you may have.
Well, thank you so much, ID Mark. And I think this especially highlights another part of our Lead with a Vision sessions. Typically, we focus on issues within the association, but this, I think, can be applied to our academic and professional lives as well, which I think is so important, because that is what Leo is all about: leadership, experience, and opportunity, helping us carry into our professional and academic futures. So there is a delay between us talking right now and our audience. So while they get caught up, I have a question, which I'm intrigued to know. How can we, as project managers, deal with members of our team who are not contributing their fair share?
That's a great question, because I think we all know that there are people in our clubs that are not, they don't step up. They're very good Leos, they're very good Lions, but they hang around in the back and they want to let things happen. So the Agile way of thinking, or project management in general, looks to bring people's strengths in. So if you have a Leo in your club that you know is a great artist, a great graphic designer, you need to pull them out of the back row and bring them up and let them work. Tell them how important their experience is to your project. You just can't let them sit in the background anymore.
Well, I think that's a great point. And we have a question here. How can we handle the challenges of managing projects when several generations of Lions or Leos are working on the same project. Intergenerational collaboration.
Intergenerational. In the world we're in now, if we're not listening to the younger generations, we're missing the boat. We have to make sure that the message and the learnings that our young Lions and Leos are able to share with us, and they are heeded. We talk about leadership all the time on the board, and I'm not on the leadership committee, but in talking to my fellow directors, we know the importance of getting that understanding and allowing those voices to be heard. We have to keep making that happen. And that resistance to change that I mentioned at the very end of my remarks is that barrier that has to be broken down. Or we're going to lose people. And we can't afford to lose people because there's too much need in this world for people that support Lions Clubs International and our Leo program.
I have a question. So after you guys, so in the Agile, many people work together as a team to, bring all their ideas together. After a certain amount of edits and you lose sight of the original project, how would you go forth with finding and solving your client's issue?
Oh, that's great because sometimes the more you work on a project and the more you pull your ideas together, you realize that the original plan is not what you're doing anymore, and that's that pivot that I talked about. And so I think it's important as a team that you recognize that it's time to shift. It's time to say, we've done the research, we've done the planning on this, but it really can't go that way. And that's okay. With an agile methodology, that gives you permission to discover something that you didn't foresee and move to a new area and rename it, call it what it should be called, and bring in people into your team or replace people on your team that can help you get to that end result successfully.
Yeah, I think that's totally it. I don't see any more questions in the chat unless there's a delay. So I think I'm going to pass it over to Otis.
Well, thank you so much, Leorthica. And unfortunately, I think that will bring us to the end of the session. It's been great to hear from you, ID Mark, and I think that our audience is, I can see from the comments, are very much impressed with this session. I think that this is a good point for us to go forward, talking about more leadership skills, which I think are going to be key to our success as Leos and Lions in the coming years. I just want to spotlight a few things. First, as always, if you are looking for the attendance certificate, the link is scrolling at the bottom of the screen, as well as we're going to put it in the chat in a couple moments. And I'd also like to extend the invitation for all of you. As many of you know, I'm a member of the Leo Advisory Panel, and our Leo Advisory Panel delegation from Constitutional Area 1 is going to be hosting a webinar on May 22nd to bring together all of our Leos and Lions to talk about how we can empower Leos in our communities. It's definitely going to be an exciting webinar, and I think check out Facebook for all the details on that, because we truly do hope to have all of you there. So thank you all so much. Thank you so much, ID Mark and Leorthica, and I'm going to turn it back over for our conclusion.
Thank you so much for everyone joining, and thank you, of course, Director Lyon, for really bringing up some really important points. And I'm surely motivated from the important points. Was so great, and I really appreciate you for sharing them. And I'm sure my fellow friends here on this live on the Leo and Lions totally agree with me. So thank you so much for joining, everyone, and I hope to see you all soon.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.